Yes, I saw your comments and I listened.
Hi everyone, my name is Chionu. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I drafted the pattern I used in making this beautiful corset top you are seeing on your screen. And if that's what you like to see, please keep on watching and let's get right into the video. I'm going to be using a pattern paper, tape roll, scissors, pencil and marker, ruler, and our French curve. And these are the measurements I'll be working with in this video. Right now, I'm going to be rolling a starting line at the top of my paper. And then I'll mark out my bust line, under bust line and waist line, which is 10 inches, 13 inches and 15 inches respectively. And I'll go ahead to roll a straight line across the points. And then I'll label the lines. We have our bust line, under bust line, and the waist line. For the neckline, I'll be using 3 by 3 inches, and I'm going to use a curved ruler to connect them together. And then I'll go ahead to divide my shoulder measurement by 2 and place it on the starting line and mark it out as you can see. From that point, I'll go down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and then I'll connect the point to my neckline. Before marking a straight line, I'll go ahead to mark out my chest line, and to get that, you divide your bust measurement by 6, then you add 1.5. So mine is 7.3, but I approximated to 7.5, and I'm going to use my ruler to draw across that line. So this is now my chest line. I'll be dividing my bust measurement by 4, and then I'll mark it out on my chest line, as you can see me doing. To get the armhole curve, I divided this armhole line by 2, and then from that point, I came in by half an inch, and then I connected the line where I marked out my bust measurements. I connected the lines together using my curved ruler, and I extended it to the shoulder slope point. And then my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, I'll mark it on my bust line, under bust line and waist line, and I'll draw a straight line across the points. I'll be dividing the shoulder line into 2, and then from that point I'll connect it down to the bust line, as you can see. I'll measure what I have from the bust line to the under bust line, which is 3 inches, and then I'm going to use this 3 inches to make a circle round, making sure that the tip of my tape is well placed on the bust line. This is what the circle looks like, and then I'll use my pencil to trace the points out to make it more defined. I proceeded to using my marker because this is where the corset formation starts, and then I'll mark out 3/4 of an inch on my under bust line and on my waist line, inside and outside, as you can see me doing. Just watch closely so you don't get confused. And then I'm going to roll a straight line across the dots I made. On the bust line, I'll come down by 1 inch, and on that 1 inch, I'll make a curve connecting it down to the under bust. From the chest line, I'll go down by ½ inch. So this depends on how deep you want the neckline to be, or you can still just maintain the chest line. Then I'll go in by another ½ inch. I'll come to my waistline and measure out what I have there, which is 1.5. Then I'll add ½ inch, which is 2 inches, and I'll be shearing it at the top of the circle, and I'll take in 3/4 of an inch, and I'll mark out the remaining to the side. And then I connected it to the bust line. Please take note, this initial line was a mistake. Here is the correct line, so please take note. And then I'll use my curved ruler to blend the lines together, as you can see. I will also connect these points down to this ½ inch we created earlier, and from that point I'll connect it to the under bust line, as you can see. I'll place my tape between these 2 points and then place a mark at the center, and then from that center I'll go down by ½ an inch, and from there I'll make a straight line, so that will be our new chest line. And then I'll connect these lines together, and I would also be connecting it down to the under bust. The cups are formed at this point, so now I'm going to be taking my body measurements divided by 4, and I'm going to be adding the darts and also the sewing allowance. Because I want that basque effect on the waistline, I'll be going down from my waistline 3 inches, and then I will just use my hand to sketch it, as you can see. I'm just using my marker to trace out the line. And then I'll connect the body measurements I marked out earlier. I'll be labeling it before cutting in order not to get confused, because the cups can seem similar, so I'd advise you label before cutting. So this is actually the center front, not the side front. And then I'll go ahead to cut it out, so I'll be cutting on the red line. This is still useful if you choose to add a yoke to yours. So this is what I have after I was done cutting. And also remember, our pattern paper for this front was on fold, so you can see how it's looking like now. And so for the back, I already drafted out a basic bodice pattern, just like I did for the front pattern. On the chest line, I'm going to mark out my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2, and I'll also mark it out on the waistline, and then I'll connect the dot with my ruler. To get the dart, I'm going to go down on the chest line by 1 inch, and then I'll go to the waistline. I'll measure out ½ inch on both sides, and then I'll connect the dots together. So I just drew a line on the bust line to meet with the darts. And then I went down on the chest line by ½ inch and connected it to the dart line using my curved ruler. I'll go ahead to mark out the body measurements divided by 4, and then I'll add my dart and also my sewing allowance. For this, I use a sewing allowance of 1.5 inches, and I'll repeat the same thing to the waist as well. And then I'll connect the dots together. I'm just trying to blend the lines in well. Since I'm going to be making use of loop for this corset, I will mark out 2 inches on my center back, which I'm going to be cutting out. and then I'll go ahead to cut it out, still following the red line. And so for the dart, if you don't want the sewing to be visible on your fabric, you can do what we call dart manipulation. You can see what I'm doing. So you are just cutting one side of the dart, and then you are going to place it on the other side, as you can see, and then you are going to use a tape, or you can use paper tape or any tape you have. So you tape it down together. And also take note, once you do this, then you have to remove the dart allowance you kept earlier when you were measuring. So yeah, that's it. If you don't want the sewing to show, because that's how I did mine. And then I'll label it. Also, please note that this back pattern wasn't cut on fold due to limited paper, so I'd advise that you cut yours on fold. So guys, we've come to the end of this pattern drafting tutorial. This was how I drafted out what I used in making this corset top you are seeing on your screen, and the sewing tutorial is on my channel. I'll be linking it in the description box, so please do well to check it out. Also, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you found this video helpful, please drop lovely comments. Thank you for 260+ subscribers. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.